All right, welcome everyone to True Real Estate Horror Stories. My name is Mike McNamara, and I'm your host. And today we have Chris Bishop here. Tell his horror stories.
Yes, I'm excited.
So our goal with this podcast is to educate agents through mistakes that agents make in the industry, and hopefully they don't make the same mistake. So
Yeah.
tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Obviously, you're an OG in the industry, so.
You know, I guess I figured it out. I'm going to hit my 20-year mark next year, and so I'll go to my LVR meeting. They'll give me a magnifying glass like everybody else. But it went by really fast.
Yeah.
And so I think of my mom and my dad had been in it 45, 50 years. And so that's, just amazing to think of the time that's gone by. But
Yeah.
So you wanted to talk about real estate horror stories, which I think
Yes.
is interesting because every instructor who's ever taught CE or every broker has their, oh my God, you can't believe this happened kind of thing.
Yep, and that's what I look for. So.
Yeah, I know, that's great. So when I first got into real estate, it was kind of like Fantasyland. Like every home would sell right away. Everything was just amazing. The price was $400,000. I mean, it was like the perfect storm.
So
right?
was this 2004?
2004. And it only was getting better. And I thought, oh man, why didn't I do this earlier? And then like literally the world shut down and the market fell out, and every street you would go down would have 10 or 12 listings, and if it wasn't for sale, it was usually for rent.
Yeah.
And so I was fortunate enough to get into REOs.
Yeah.
And
So that's 2009 now, right?
this was like 2007, 8. So they had kind of started. People had saw the trend. I actually got in. I got in with my dad with Countrywide.
Okay.
And you remember what happened to Countrywide, right?
Yep.
But we were there when they were still taking in assets and they were disposing of them. And so probably like week 2, one of the jobs that I had, which it's not something they train you for in real estate school or at a brokerage, was I would have to knock on doors of people that hadn't been paying their mortgage. And I mean, we're talking about people that didn't answer their phone, they didn't open their mail, they just literally shut down.
Sure.
And I would knock on the door and let them know, hey, the bank wants to pay you to move out of the house.
Yeah, because the banks were doing that specifically so that they didn't destroy the house, right?
Yes, cash for keys, they called it. And when it initially started, the agents actually had some control over how much money someone would receive, and we would, I think they've changed a lot of laws since then, but we could actually be rewarded for saving the bank money.
Gotcha.
Okay, and so in my instance, they weren't that forward thinking, but I did know that was out there. And so what would happen is the bank would send me an offer and say, please present this, and they wouldn't really have any more info.
Yeah.
And so sometimes people would rent it to their cousin, or it'd just be some random stranger paying them money. And so we didn't know anything going into it.
Or a squatter in general, right?
Correct, yeah. And now, for the purposes of this, and I think the learning experience, I never carried. Like I didn't carry a gun or anything like that. It just wasn't something I did. Of course, I know how to use a gun or shoot it.
Sure,
I was trained to do that, but I just didn't. And so here I am, this dumb kid, 20 years old, who doesn't know what I don't know, and I'm going to these houses. I wouldn't let my kid do this. I wouldn't let anybody in my family do it. But so the worst thing that ever happened, go to a house, and it was actually at the bottom of Summerlin. Lady had been in it 18 months without making a payment, and I have a check for $5,000 for her. Now, $5,000 was a lot of money in context of her mortgage payment. I think was like $1,000 bucks. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, this would make a pretty big impact. And so, walk up to the house. There's mail and trash everywhere in the front yard. You can tell that they hadn't opened it. There's the packages from the bank, trying to tell her what's going on. And I knock on the door, and it happened to have one of those screens, the security screens, and you can't see through it. It's very
Right, those are very,
yeah. And so.
You just hear a voice speaking behind it.
A voice would have been welcome. There's no quieter, scared feeling than hearing a shotgun be cocked. And you know what it is. Like, there's no question, you know what it is. And so I knocked on the door, I rang the doorbell, I heard it go off, and then I heard the door open, and I said hi. And as soon as I said hi, that's all I heard.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, ma'am, I'm here from the bank to give you money. and she goes, you're what? And I said, I am here from the bank with a cashier's check to give to you to see if we can help you move out of this property and not have any more problems or worry about how this is going to go. And I got to tell you, Mike, the funny thing is that was scary.
Yeah.
Like I didn't lose any bodily fluids at that point, but I was close.
Sure.
Right? And I'm thinking, can I duck enough or miss it so that she doesn't kill me?
Right.
And
well, also it's hard because you can't see.
Can't see.
So
see.
you don't.
And I just know what I think it is, right? I watch enough television and movies that I know what it is. And so, funny enough, this gets really sad and then it gets really good. The lady finally opens the door, and she was one of the sweetest ladies I've ever met. You can just tell that she was living in fear every day. And she was living in fear of someone taking her home and someone, just kicking her out.
Her being homeless.
Yeah, and I think that's really what it was. But I mean, it turns out that this lady had a good job. It's her company downsized. She got another good job, but she just got behind.
Yeah.
And so, but here's the thing that was really kind of scary. After I get in, this smell hits me. And the lady didn't want anyone to know she was still in the property, so she didn't put her animals outside during the day. She just let them go in the house.
Go in the bathroom. Oh my God.
And I'm like, how do you? And so this person had been living this way for a while, and so the whole thing with me, I don't care. It didn't matter. It wasn't my business. I worked out the deal with her, got her money, got her out of the property, and then I had to go in and start doing it. But everyone kind of shrugged this lady off, and I actually, I said, listen, I know this is a bad scenario. You now have the money. I'll help you find a rental.
That was going to be my next question: is if you guys had some type of a plan with the people that were in there to help them out.
Most didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, most didn't. They. I think you got to realize too. In this instance, I'm taking your prized asset, your American dream, and I'm taking it away from you.
Most people didn't want to work with
Yeah,
you.
you didn't want to talk to them again. You were just happy they didn't kill you. But this lady, what I found out to be true is everyone can be genuine with somebody as long as they communicate with them.
Right.
And so I just started doing what every good salesperson would do. I started asking her questions. I started talking to her. I started humanizing what she was going through and saying that 70% of America is going through this. You're not alone. So I ended up putting her into a rental, and she still had maintained. I mean, her credit score started to go back up. Things like that were happening, and she sent me multiple referrals.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those lessons that I learned. But what I would tell you for the advice of this horror story: don't put yourself into situations you can't control.
Yeah.
Make sure that you're protected. Like, I should have taken people with me. I should have not been alone. I should have gotten a long stick and knocked on the door and stood over here or something like that. But I would never go back and do that again.
If you were showing for newer agents, do you recommend carrying, or is it? It's a hard thing to recommend.
With the political climate we live in, I'm not going to tell anyone what they should do. All I'm going to say is that you shouldn't put yourself in an unsafe position. And I think that's what everyone who I know that carries says.
Yeah.
I have friends who are agents that have multiple items that they carry because that makes them feel safe that they're in a good place.
Right.
I would rather have multiple people with me, not more targets, but that I would rather have someone sitting in the car that's watching me that has their phone by them that is seeing what's going on. Yeah.